Okay, Tom, so here's why I wrote you. About a year and a half ago when I moved in here, I noticed that the grout was rather dingy.
Yeah.
So I got one of these.
A marker?
It's a grout and tile marker, actually. So
How'd that work for you?
it didn't work out very well. Basically what you do is it's like a magic marker and you paint over the grout. But as you can see, if you look over here, my test area, it's rather sloppy.
Yeah.
So I wasn't happy with the way it came out. And then when I looked closer at the floor, the darker areas that I thought were stained were really just missing grout.
Voids. Yeah. Yeah, well, let me take a look. I can see that there is grout missing. You actually have some loose grout. That will all have to come out. And on the rest of the floor, where the grout is nice and tight, we'll scrape off some of that and re-grout the entire floor.
Okay.
All right, Leila, there's no two ways about it. We've got some grunt work ahead of us. So I brought in some tools. This one right here is a triangular shape, and it's actually a carbide tip blade on the end of a handle here that we can scrape the grout in the corner like that. Try to scrape it out. Here's another one here. This is a carbide, and that can go in there and scrape the grout out too. I actually have one here that's a little bit shorter. Might be a little bit easier to use. And if this doesn't work, we're actually going to use a utility knife. So, you ready to start?
Yep.
Let's try the triangular one first. Let's just put it on there and scrape back and forth. See how it works.
Ooh. Now what happens if I scratch the tile?
You don't want to scratch the tile, so be very careful.
And how deep do I go?
You'll actually scrape it, and you'll actually feel the grout pop out if it's going to pop out. This V-tool works pretty good on the grout that is solid. But I think when the grout is loose, like this part right here, I want to try this tool because it gets down deeper. And see, I can remove all those loose chips. You don't want to leave those in there. All right, I think what we need to do is vacuum up all this old grout, see if we've missed any spots, but I think we're in pretty good shape.
Okay.
All right, now that we've vacuumed up all the old grout, we're going to wash the floor down with a mixture of vinegar and water. So I want to lightly wash that, wring it out. We'll just wipe it down. The mixture is 1 part water and 1 part white vinegar. Now that the vinegar solution is dry, we're simply going to rinse the floor with plain warm water. Now we're ready to grout. Now I didn't mix up the grout with water. I actually used an acrylic additive. And this is an unsanded grout.
Why do you use unsanded?
Well, it's actually a finer grout, and because the joints in the tile are 1/8 of an inch or less, the fine grout will get down deep into those joints. I use an acrylic additive because it makes for a good bond, gives the grout some flexibility, and it will actually give it a little bit of sealer. Now we're all done with our hard rubber float. Now I want to wipe off the excess with a sponge and a little bit of water. The secret to a good grout job is let the grout set up long enough in the joint to become firm, but not too long so you can't get it off the floor. Well, what do you think?
It looks great. No more dingy grout.
I agree. It really pops nice. Now, tomorrow there'll be a little haze on the floor. Take a damp sponge or a towel and wipe the floor down, and it'll really shine.
Great. Thank you so much.